All right. How do you make sure the job you find is one that lets you work from anywhere? This webinar is going to answer all of these questions. And here's the quick overview of how we're going to do that today. What is a work from anywhere job? We're going to talk about that. I want to share with you how you can find companies that hire for this type of work. And also, I do want to share considerations for the digital nomad life because some folks who want to work from anywhere literally want to travel and work from anywhere. Some people want to have a job that allows them to be in one or two places, and some people like to pop around multiple places every month or so, or whatever cadence works for them. So we're going to go through all of that today. The first thing that's really critical is that it's important to understand that your location matters in a remote job search. So not every remote job, in fact, very few remote jobs are work from anywhere jobs. Most remote jobs have a location requirement, about 95% of them. I remember when I started looking for remote jobs, I assumed that, just like lots of other people, that if you're working from home or wherever you can work from, as long as the job can be done remotely, it doesn't matter where you work, but it does to the organization. And there's a few reasons why. So I want to kind of go over those. Companies have to follow various employment laws and regulations and tax laws and regulations from the city, state, and country where they are based. And so not all companies are able to hire employees in every location across the globe. Some are, and we'll talk about that, of course. Other company reasons might be they want you to be available for training. Some jobs require a license, and those licenses are only available, like in the US, in certain states where you are licensed. And so if you are licensed to work as a counselor in Florida, that doesn't mean that you can work in Washington State without getting a Washington State license. Some companies want you to be close to an airport so that you can hop on and travel if needed for company meetings or client meetings. The other reasons might be they want you to be near clients for those meetings and just various job functions that might require a location requirement. So it's really critical when you want a job that can be done from anywhere, you search for jobs that can be done across the world and also find companies that hire for this type of position so that you can be pretty laser focused in what companies you're looking at because you know they hire for this type of work. And so I'm glad you're here today because we're going to go through all of that. As we look at the FlexJobs database of jobs, these are the top 10 career categories that offer the most work from anywhere opportunities. So you can see the different categories. They are across a number of different industries, but computer and IT, marketing, of course, writing and editing and graphic design makes sense to be able to be done from work from anywhere. There's also accounting and finance, jobs that require you to speak a different language. Gaming, entertainment, and media are new to the list this year. So we've seen an increase in those opportunities. Product jobs and jobs in education. These are the top career categories. So you could search for jobs that you do in these career categories, or you could think about some of the job titles. So according to our FlexJobs database, these are the most common job titles with work from anywhere opportunities. You can see project manager, customer success manager, another product role as a product designer, a translator, which that kind of matches the career category of bilingual, content editing, software engineer, financial analyst, video editor, and email marketer. These are the most popular job titles with work from anywhere jobs. That does not mean they are the only job titles that offer work from anywhere jobs, just those that we saw as being the most popular in our database. Finally, we always talk about the strategy in your job search to target companies you are interested in working for in regard to part of your job search. So if you are looking for a job that lets you work from anywhere, one strategy is to focus on companies that hire for roles that would allow you to do that. This is a good place to start with this list. It's linked in the resources, so you will get the resources of the top 30 companies, and you can find each of these companies on the FlexJobs site. You can learn more about them, their current openings, as well as on the site, we have links to their social pages like LinkedIn and Twitter, and things like that. So you'll be able to check out those channels as well. But here are the top 10 work from anywhere companies, according to our FlexJobs data. Fluent U, Static Media, Kraken, Chainlink Labs, Viva, Invisible Technologies, the Wikimedia Foundation, Finixio, Oyster HR, and Canonical, I hope I'm saying that right. So we've just briefly gone over the top career categories, the top job titles, and the top work from anywhere companies. And so these are strategies for you to focus your search if you are looking for a job that can be done anywhere, to sort of hone in on some specifics where you know there already are ample opportunities. So those people that look for work from anywhere jobs sometimes want to be a digital nomad or call themselves a digital nomad. But what is that exactly? A digital nomad is someone who works remotely without having a permanent location. That means that one day you might be working in Florida, and then you might travel over the weekend when you're not working, and the next several weeks, maybe you're working in London. And for the job that you have, that does not matter. You can travel with a job like this and still stay connected to work. Now, it does take a little bit of work to do that, and we'll get into some of those strategies in a minute, but you can embrace this lifestyle of being able to have complete control over where you work and where you are working. There are definitely some benefits to this kind of life or having this kind of role. Of course, it's like one of those choose your own adventure novels where you're reading. I don't know if you guys remember those. You read and then you get to pick the ending, go to this page or go to this page, depending on what you want. It gives you really ultimate flexibility to work from various locations. You can, explore new places. You could decide to settle in one place for a while. Maybe you have older kids you have grandkids and you want to go work and also spend time with them for several times. So you might be able to establish something like a temporary home base before leaving to go to maybe your next child's house who has grandkids as well. Some people prefer a frequent change of scenery, always exploring new cities, and visiting new countries. Also, when you have a job that can be done from anywhere, you maybe can work from places like coffee shops, a hotel lobby, or a hotel room, and maybe even the beach. Some people have been able to figure out how to do that. Really, the beauty of this lifestyle is its reliance on remote work. And so with a work from anywhere job, if you are a digital nomad, typically you can finance, some of your travels to make your traveling dreams more of a reality. And so these are some considerations that people have who are thinking about a work from anywhere job, especially if they are in the camp of people that wants to also be able to travel when it suits them. But how do you actually put this into practice, right? You first have to assess if a work from anywhere job or this digital nomad lifestyle aligns with a few things. First, your personality, your lifestyle, and your financial resources, because that is a reality of the matter. You also need to evaluate if your current career or your current job that you're doing can be carried out independently from various locations, or if a career change or a career pivot might be necessary. And finally, it's important to evaluate the tools and resources you have to support your remote work setup, no matter where you are working. So you need to assess your technology capabilities and the things that you'll need to do your work, and consider any other requirements, especially if you're traveling, such as digital nomad visas, which might be necessary for a location of your choosing. So by carefully examining these things, you'll better set yourself up for success to be able to fully embrace a work from anywhere or digital nomad lifestyle. All right, so Again, some more of the self-assessment to this particular lifestyle. Before setting up your travel schedule, you really need to know if being a digital nomad is a good fit for your personality, or if you just want the freedom to work from anywhere and maybe move around a little bit. Do you have the financial resources, as I mentioned earlier, to support any traveling that you have the idea to do? And is there anything that would tie you to a specific location where it might impact your ability to do that traveling? And answering these questions, reflecting on some of your goals, and getting organized is really going to help you analyze if being a digital nomad is right for you, either as in a temporary capacity or in a more permanent capacity. The other question you need to assess and ask yourself is your career actually digital nomad friendly or work from anywhere friendly? So think about what you've been doing in your current job or your career field. Is it something you can take on the road? Are you able to work completely independently from various time zones? And sometimes you can still do your work from different time zones and work asynchronously from those on your team. So this isn't necessarily a deal breaker, but it might mean that if you travel somewhere and you are on a completely different time zone, maybe you're in Asia and your team is in the US, the times that you will be working might not be in normal, daytime hours where you are located. You might have to stick to those hours based on where your company is or where your team is. So if you changed companies, is your line of work still a fit? So that's something that you want to answer as well. Now, if your current job or career isn't something you'd want to take with you on the road or have as a work from anywhere job, you can certainly look into making a career change and build a plan to do that if your ultimate goal is to work from anywhere and be a digital nomad. So what tools do you need for a work from anywhere job? Your technology is what you need to immediately consider when you find one of these jobs. Do you have the tools to support being able to work away from a home base or a home office? If you don't have the specific tools and resources yourself, how are you going to acquire them? Or where will you be working that has those tools, like a shared office space or a coffee shop or something along those lines? The other thing that's really important that some people might not think about, but do need to, is what are the legalities of being a digital nomad wherever you want to travel, or do you need remote work visas? There are also some countries that offer digital nomad programs like Come Work Here. You can have a visa for X number of months, and that's something that can be really exciting for people as well. In terms of technology tools, you have to think about things like monitors, a mobile hotspot, extra batteries, of course, a good headset. Do you need a VPN? All of those things you need to think about and explore so that you can figure out, are there gaps? What are some things that I can do to be successful in this type of role as I get started? Are the places you want to go equipped with the required infrastructure? And of course, all of that requires research ahead of time. All right, so what do you do next? If this is the type of work that you're looking for, you want to do some research, consider all the options that might be available to you. Now, that includes your current job, your current career field, and possibly a career pivot if this is your ultimate goal, to find a remote job that lets you work from anywhere. Then create your list of target companies that offer the type of work that you want to do and also offer work from anywhere positions. This is going to give you a place to start in terms of networking, checking out the company and the jobs that they are offering right now, so you have a basis of what you can start to apply for. Finally, make sure that you're organized with all of your materials, and then you can start executing the plan to make sure that you are applying for the right jobs and doing the right things to be able to secure this type of work. All right, as promised, we are going to answer your questions. Please remember, we'll be sending a link to this recording and the resources that were included If you have additional questions or ideas of things that you need for your job search, please check out the flexjobs.com blog. There's so many articles there, and I know we say this at the end of all of our webinars, but really and truly, there are lots of resources there. So that is all something that we are excited for you to have
All
access
right,
to.
so
I'm
we are
also
now going
excited
to
for us
move
to be able
into
to
the
get into
Q&A
your
portion
questions.
of
So
our webinar.
let's go ahead
Before we dive
and
into your questions,
do
could
that.
someone let me know in the chat section if you're able to hear me okay? All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. So my name is Keith Spencer, and I am one of our career experts here at FlexJobs, and I will be answering your questions for you. So our first question here says, what location do we put in, when job searching, when looking for work from anywhere instead of, city, state, or remote? So that's one of the things that can be a point of frustration with some of the job boards that are out there. FlexJobs is nice because we do kind of prioritize showing you the location, potential geographic requirement of different job postings. So one of the things that I really like to emphasize, and actually let me go ahead and share my screen here a moment. So if we go and look at FlexJobs, I always try to encourage people to utilize this advanced search feature up here in the top, because if you click advanced, you can then go down to location. So let's say you're not in the US, so you would go ahead and unclick this and you wouldn't put anything in this box here. Now, if you were in an international location, you could go ahead and select your country from the dropdown. Or if you wanted to be like a digital nomad where you're just kind of moving around the world, working anywhere, you could leave this blank and then just make sure this box here is checked, because then you will see positions that are only open to anywhere in the world. If you are living in a country outside of the US, we are US based here, you would put your country in from the drop down, and then it's only going to show you options that are either work from anywhere in the world or your country of residence, or both also. So I guess three options there. But that's the best way to kind of filter that when using FlexJobs. So let me stop sharing my screen. But when you are using other job search sites, which we do recommend, use different job boards that are out there. Not every job is posted on every single job board. You would, in those instances, if they don't have that type of feature, you would just want to lean heavily on remote as your sort of location term that you're using. But then you'll have to do a little bit more digging. Pay attention to the job description. Usually they'll say, yes, this is a remote position, but we want you to live here. Or if it has more than just remote listed as a location, it might have a geographic location listed there as well. So that means that, yes, it's remote, but we want you to live in this geographic location. So just make sure that you're paying attention to those types of things and doing a little bit of extra digging when you're looking off of FlexJobs or looking at other sites besides FlexJobs. But really good question, and thank you for asking that. Our next one here says, any forums on just doing part-time remote work as a side gig? So none that specifically, come to mind right off the top of my head, but I would imagine, on different social media sites like LinkedIn, you could probably search by, side hustle, side gig, freelance, and then filter by groups. You could probably find some, groups out there that have that kind of focus. You could also look on other social media sites like potentially like Reddit. I would imagine there are some on there. Other sites out there that have those sort of forums set up would be good places to look. But yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt to try to seek out that type of group or that type of forum, because you could bounce ideas off other people. Even times you could just sort of say like, hey, I keep running into this roadblock, I'm getting really frustrated, anybody have some advice for me? So sometimes you can get that kind of tailored advice from people who are sort of living the same experience that you're trying to live. So that would be definitely couldn't hurt to look for those types of forums. But that would be my suggestion. Check on LinkedIn, filter by groups, searching by different keywords, and then explore some other social media platforms as well. Good question, though, and thank you for taking the time to ask that. Our next one here. So, how important are the online tests on FlexJobs site to get a remote job? Do the hiring employers actually see the results? Yeah, so this is another really good question. So, the vast majority of employers on FlexJobs are using FlexJobs to reach a wider audience with their posting. They're not necessarily sitting on FlexJobs and searching for candidates. So, I wouldn't worry about that specifically. The online tests for FlexJobs, what I tell folks is use those as your own sort of guide in terms of like what you should be learning, what you should be trying to emphasize to employers, things like that. So, like, for example, what I do with those tests, if there's a skill that I think I am really good at, I will go ahead and take that test to see, are there pieces that maybe I'm missing? Am I as good as I think I am? Or is there some potential upskilling that I need to do? And then, kind of based on the results of the test, then I'll decide, like, okay, yep, I am really good, just like I thought. Let me make sure that I'm really emphasizing this through my resume and my cover letter and my LinkedIn profile. Or I might say, like, oh, there's definitely some parts that I'm missing here. Maybe I should go do some self-directed learning and then come back and try again on this test to see if I have, managed to improve. But it's not something that you necessarily want to invest a ton of time in order to hope to attract employers. But it is a really good guide for you in terms of, what should you be emphasizing? What should you be learning more? So hopefully that was a helpful response for you. And thank you for asking that question. One second here. All right, so let's see. Our next one here. What's the best way to find a remote job from outside the U.S. and Europe? So, kind of going back to the first one that we talked about there. Make sure you're using that advanced search filter if you're searching on LinkedIn. Really make sure that you are, paying attention to other job search sites. Do they have a geographic location required or listed anywhere, or does it say that it is a truly 100% remote, doesn't matter where you live kind of thing? So on FlexJobs, it is easier to identify there. On other job search sites or a lot of other job search sites, I won't say all of them, you are required to do a little bit more digging there. So it can be a little bit tricky, but also just using, some general lists. Like if you can find, lists on companies that offer work from anywhere positions, like FlexJobs, we put out a lot of lists along those lines. Those could be a good starting point, because then you could do kind of a what we refer to as sort of the reverse job search. So you are, targeting specific companies and, trying to network with people that work there. You're bookmarking their hiring page on their company website and checking it out regularly. That can be beneficial for you as well. But good question, and thank you for taking the time to ask that. Our next one here. So, editing your complete job history seems to risk accusations of misrepresentation. Um, Suggestions on how to walk this line. Okay, so I'm a little bit foggy here on what exactly you're asking. If I am understanding correctly, I believe what you're saying is, we often and people who give career advice just in general often suggest, pay attention to, what you're putting on your resume. Like, for example, so like people who are maybe concerned about age bias, they might only include the most 10 to 15 years worth of experience and remove the dates from their education, things like that. And in fact, I recommend that just for everybody, unless you just graduated from college or university, a year or two ago. But let's use that as an example. Sometimes people think like, oh, am I misrepresenting, my experience, or am I being dishonest if I am, not including the full, scope of my work history? No, you're not. You don't want to lie on your resume, and you don't want to like adjust dates to maybe cover like a career gap or something like that. That would be morally questionable there, because you are giving false information. So you don't want to give false information, but at the same time, what you decide to include in your application materials is totally up to you. Like another example that I'll give, I hear from a lot of job seekers that are maybe deciding to take a little bit of like a step back in their career. I'll say, like, maybe they had kind of a leadership position and now they want to move back into kind of an individual contributor role where they don't want any leadership responsibilities. And a lot of times they run into issues where employers view them as being overqualified. Well, on your resume, you don't have to talk about all the high level leadership stuff that you did. You can just talk about the stuff that is relevant to the job to which you are applying for right now. Like, you don't have to include every single little thing that you've done. Same thing kind of goes. I've talked to job seekers who have like a PhD, they have a master's degree, and they have a bachelor's degree. Well, if you're applying for something that only requires a bachelor's, maybe leave leave off the PhD, maybe also leave off the master's. Like, you don't have to give them every detail about you. That's not, being dishonest. It would be dishonest to apply for something and say you have a PhD when you don't. But you don't need to tell them every single little detail about yourself. So hopefully that answers your question. I was a little foggy there, but definitely appreciate you bringing up that topic. All right, so our next one here, this person is saying, they've noticed that many recruiters use a similar phrase when reaching out to candidates on LinkedIn. They'll mention something like they're impressed with their background after reviewing their application. Is this part of an automated process or a standard practice? How can candidates stand out in such a competitive remote job market? So to address the first part of your question, I wouldn't, if you're getting this through LinkedIn, it's probably not an automated message. Now, that being said, that recruiter might have a file somewhere saved where they have some kind of generic messages that they send out to people so that they're not having to type, the same thing or something very similar over and over and over again. But, if you've applied for a job and a recruiter is reaching out to you on LinkedIn or something like that, that tends to be a good sign. They're not going to waste their time reaching out to people that aren't a good fit. Or, if you are, have maybe the open to work banner, or have, sort of the private, hey, I'm open to work indicated on your LinkedIn, and recruiters are reaching out to you and saying, hey, I'd love it if you could apply for this job. That's also a good sign. Like, you do want to be careful and kind of vet when that happens, because, that can sometimes be a warning sign of a scam if you're getting sort of a unsolicited job offer. But if they're saying like, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn, your background looks interesting, or I'm impressed with your background, would you consider applying for this job? And then, they tell you like the company that they're working at and the job that they have open. Then you can do some investigating on that company's website to see like, okay, have they actually posted this job? You could look at that company's LinkedIn page and see if this person does actually work for them. That's what I mean when I say kind of vetting and doing your due diligence there. Don't just go clicking right away on random links that people are sending you, is what I'm trying to get at. But if they reach out to you with kind of a generic message, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a scam, or it doesn't mean that it's automated. They just might have some saved messages, kind of canned messages that they send out so that they're not typing the same thing over and over again, like I said. Now, in terms of how can candidates stand out in a competitive remote job market, what I recommend there is a couple things, and I'll try to go over them quickly. I know I can be long-winded. I apologize for that. But know what you're trying to target, right? Like, know what types of roles you're trying to target. That really helps you with determining like, okay, what do I want to emphasize about myself? What do I want to include on my LinkedIn profile? What do I want to include in my resume and cover letter? What are the skills that I want to try to showcase to employers? That's a helpful step one, just knowing what your targets are. Then make sure when you're finding jobs that you want to apply for, go a step further in terms of targeting or customizing or tailoring your application materials. Like, I typically, like, if I'm applying for roles that have to do with career development, well, I'll use my career development resume because it's already targeted towards that field. But then for each individual job that I apply for, I'll tailor that resume a little bit further. Usually I'll focus the tailoring efforts on that summary section at the top of my resume, because chances are good that's the first section they're going to read. But that can help you stand out even more, like really tailoring that for that specific job. Following up on your application, if you can find a point of contact either through the job posting, through the company website, or through LinkedIn, try to follow up and reach out and say, hey, I recently applied for this role. I think I'm a good fit because of, and then just concisely mention one or two reasons. I would love to know the status of the hiring process if you're able to share that with me, or something like that. That kind of follow up can get them to take a second look at you. And then also too, this is a bit more of the long game, but following companies of interest on LinkedIn, reacting to their posts, following people that work there, trying to kind of network your way into the company, that can also help you stand out as well. So that's a broad question there. We could talk about that for literal hours, but hopefully some of those points that I mentioned, or the highlights there that I mentioned, can help at least get you started there. But good question, and thank you for asking that. Trying to see if there's any. A lot of these are similar or like kind of repeats to what we've answered already. Um, hmm, further. All right, so we're a couple minutes over time. I was going to try to stuff in one more question, but I'm seeing a little bit of repetition here in some of the questions that we've already addressed. But here's one that's a little bit unique that I'll answer as our last one. So this one is saying, what do we need to buy for a work from home job or a work from home scenario? Is it simply a cell phone, a laptop, Wi-Fi, and headset? That should be good enough, right? Anything more? So yeah, in terms of just kind of starting out, the expectation will be that you have internet in your home, whether that's a hardwired internet with like an ethernet cable or wi-fi. Most people have wi-fi nowadays, but yes, you should have internet. You should have a computer. It doesn't have to be a laptop, it could be a desktop, but often desktops will not have the built-in integrated webcam. So if you have a desktop, you might need to make sure you have a webcam as well. Oftentimes, they will want you to have a cell phone, but that can depend on what type of job it is. Like, for example, I don't have to have a cell phone for my job because we, interact through Slack and Zoom or Google Meet. So there are different ways that you can communicate besides a cell phone. And you don't necessarily have to have a headset if the built-in microphone in your computer is good enough. I have a headset because I have a dog, and my headset has a noise canceling microphone. And sometimes my dog likes to make noise during webinars, so it kind of depends on your individual situation there. But yeah, you're covering the basics there. That tends to be good. If the employer wants you to have more, oftentimes they will send you additional equipment that they want you to use, or they will offer you, some type of stipend to go out and buy your own equipment there. But what you've described there should be enough to kind of get you off the ground, at least initially. The internet and the computer is the biggest two there, and then the rest are, kind of nice to haves. But could be, also required depending on the job. And usually, job descriptions will outline some of those equipment requirements for you. Okay, so now we are quite a bit over our time, so let's go ahead and start drawing to a close here. Really hope that this presentation and the Q&A information was helpful for you. Glad that you all could take the time to be with us here today. Really encourage you to check out some of our future webinars. We have a couple additional ones coming up this week. Let's see, Wednesday, which is the 21st. Oh, that's tomorrow. I forgot it's Tuesday. So tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have a webinar titled How to Research Employers to Find Your Next Great Job. So that has to do a little bit with what I was talking about with kind of the reverse job search, identifying the target companies first and researching them and trying to, kind of target them throughout your job search. And then we also have one on Thursday, also at 2 p.m. Eastern time, about combating ageism in your next job interview. So definitely recommend checking those out if you are interested and available. Really appreciate you all taking the time to be here and asking such great questions. I always love when we have a good kind of conversation going during the Q&A. But thank you once again. Hope that this was helpful for you, and I do wish you all the best of luck in your job search. Take care.